a wonderful place existed.
The Athenians called it
The Acropolis.
free expression, ethics, art, philosophy. The Acropolis heralded the democracy. But if I told you the Acropolis has returned. Acropolis News. News from the Acropolis.
Massive sale going on right now over on theacropolisnews.com. Just use promo codes ANN and July 4 in order to get your first month free and 20% off all auto renews, respectively. With the premium subscription, you get access to all the premium content on the site, like this premium article where I went over the validity of time travel and whether or not it's a question of science. Spoiler alert, it's not. But if you want the full details, you can go to theacropolisnews.com/products, purchase a premium subscription, and make sure to type in those coupon codes.
Acropolis News. News from the Acropolis.
And we're back with the Trevor Report. Let's jump right on into it. The Rippaverse. It is a comic series. Let's read their intentions. The American comic book industry has its issues, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a market. You just want some comics and a place to escape. Somebody has to bring back the essence. Why not us? Rippaverse Comics, a comic book company for comic book readers. Now, I said that in that tone of voice, but I'm not sponsored. But they deserve to be sponsored by basically everyone for basically everything they've raised. They've raised well above $2 million as of yet, which is always cool. It's always great. Love to see it. Let's check out their first campaign. Nearly $3 million for that have been raised. There was a $100,000 goal initially, but it is a huge, amazing, impressive thing that this rapper did, named Eric July. Basically, I've covered him before. He's the guy who had that "Let's Go Brandon" song that came out. Not the remix of it, like the actual, like not the remix of the event. Like literally, like a week after the thing happened, he went out of it. He made a pretty good song with guests, which is kind of cool. So it's neat, it's fun, it's always a joy, always a pleasure seeing people rebel the right way. And I say rebel the right look. The way I'm going up against the sort of international hegemony that is wokeness. I'm doing it from a philosophical perspective, but the problem is, like, from a philosophical and current events perspective. But that may do some stuff in the present, but all of that is long term. But it's long term in kind of the worst way, because at the end of the day, like if I oppose a critical race theory, and then someone. And then my opposition to it becomes the dominant narrative, hypothetically, in the international hegemony of woke culture, then what will happen is someone from that international hegemony will just create a we'll just like if my treatise for integration goes the way it goes, then someone could just do critical integration theory and then just be like, well, it's actually true into integration when you have segregation and all that nonsense, right? You could literally create a critical theory for literally like everything, anything and everything, right? But what this does is this is just like, nah, this is our values, this is our culture, this is our country, and this is our economy, and you can't hijack it, and you cannot colonize it. This is actually one of the best ways to resist ideological colonization, is to just simply assert your own ideology and your own culture. And way to go to Rippaverse Comics for participating on that. And another thing too, Tom McDonald dropped his newest song, Names. Okay, I don't really cover a lot of cultural content. I typically do a lot of current events and like very heated political stuff and some philosophy. But I decided to cover some culture. Right, number 7 on trending for music on YouTube. I haven't checked Spotify or whatever, but he's up there on the top 10 charts and on iTunes and Amazon. And Tom McDonald consistently is on the top 10 charts on all across the board, all across. Well, granted, it is Silicon Valley, and I do wish he would decentralize his social media presence so that he's not just on Silicon Valley Authority platforms. But nevertheless, it's a great and interesting thing to see. It's cool. I love it. You love to see it. It's always a good thing when there are when there are alternatives to international woke hegemony that exist, right? Because not everything has to be about secular Catholicism, okay? And well, that's why a lot of people are starting to oppose BLM. If you don't know this story, well, for people who are listening on Spotify. A woman confronts a buy large mansions protest, a burn, loot, murder protest, because they're protesting the fact that the police killed someone who had the correct skin color. Now, it goes a little bit further than that, but the BLM people were like, oh, cop shot person who has correct skin color, all cops are intrinsically evil, blah, 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 blah. The usual nonsense that they use to give themselves it doesn't excuse it, but they try to give themselves an excuse to violently pillage working class communities and create themselves in a vast real estate empire that includes Victorian mansions in foreign countries, things like that. But this woman, I can't remember her name, and to be honest, I'm not going to say her name on the Trevor Report. I tend to try to avoid that as much as possible, unless they're like someone in power or whatever. But anyway. She was like, hey, by the way, the person that you are protesting for and like claiming police brutality, he shot in my apartment and tried to kill me and my children. I was cooking dinner for my children when this guy tried to murder me and my family. Can you please stop protesting outside of my home so that I can get inside my home with my terrified children? That'd be great. Thanks. She's a little bit more upset than that, understandably, but that's basically the gist of it. And then she's screaming because she's being surrounded by angry black nationalists who are trying to give themselves an excuse to violently pillage working class communities and buy themselves a huge real estate empire, including Victorian mansions. But you can't do that if you're not the good guys. I think the people who do that is the thing that makes them the bad guy. But whatever, fine. And, well, as always, you see it on screen. Click a link down below in the description. Blah, 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 blah. Let's continue. Netflix says it's losing nearly 1 million subscribers and breathes a sigh of relief. A sigh of relief. 1 million subscribers. $10 per subscriber. It's a lot more than that. It's like $17.80 something for a Netflix 1 month subscription. This is insane. That's absurd. So I'm just going to round that up to $20. Real quick, right? 1 million times 20 is 20 million. Okay? That's $20 million year after year that they lost. The streaming giant, facing significant headwinds, said it expected to lose 2 million subscribers in the second quarter. Oh man, we expected to have this incredibly terrible thing to happen, and an incredibly terrible thing happened to us. Not to the American culture more broadly, but to us at Netflix is a terrible thing. But, while it may be incredibly terrible, it's not the worst thing it could possibly be. See the game that's being played by the New York Times. Lightyear. Flip-flop is a sign audiences are weary of Hollywood secular Catholicism. I know it says wokeness, but it's a more accurate term. Hollywood was founded by and for generations run by pure showmen who are financially devoted to giving the audience what they wanted. Today's Hollywood message is, let us entertain you, but first, a brief lecture on what's wrong with you, the audience. Yeah, pretty much. Also, I'm going to, if you're listening to this on Spotify, there's this feature that some websites have where you highlight a thing and then you can tweet it or whatever. I hate this feature. I truly hate this feature. This is the worst feature ever. This is a disgusting feature. It basically encourages people to be NPCs. Please stop. But anyway, the Lightyear flopped, and well, the reason Lightyear flopped was because for whatever reason, Disney was very, very, very public about like, hey, so there's going to be a lesbian kiss in this movie, and we're going to do so because of LGBTQIA plus representation, and they did this on the eve of people exposing people. On the eve of when people were exposing people who were engaging in LGBTQIA plus representation as doing so because they're pedophiles behind the scenes, on the eve of like the anti-groomer bill being designated by the corporate press and other fellow secular Catholics as I kid you not, the anti-gay bill, which really weird. So basically, Yankees were like, "Hey, you probably shouldn't abuse children. You probably shouldn't groom children. You should probably stop." And a bunch of Americans were, with their continental European assumptions on freedom, are like, "Yeah, but pedophiles are oppressed and stuff." And that went exactly how you thought it went, because we Yankees are awesome and Americans are stupid. Anyway, let's continue. Why it matters that Top Gun Maverick is so much better than the original. I saw Top Gun Maverick. I agree, it is better than the original. That is the only time I will ever agree with CNN, but they labeled their opinion article as opinion, which they don't ever do. They rarely do this. But it's nice to see when they do. Props for doing a good thing. A broken clock is right twice a day, after all. But and the reason why Top Gun Maverick is so good is because they did not cave to any secular Catholics at all, ever. Highway to the danger zone. Anyway, let's move on. House bill passes codifying same-sex marriage right, with some Republicans joining Democrats. I have literally no opinion on this. I literally don't care. Other people might care, and that's fine. It's their prerogative. My fellow Yankees can care, but my fellow Americans need to shut up. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But the reason why I'm saying that is because this is how it should be done if you're going to do this, right? Gay marriage was legalized the same way infanticide in the United States. Sorry, I mean abortion. Freudian slip there. Was legalized in the United States, and it was done by the Supreme Court overriding the legislator. I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. I'm a bit of a rule of law, separation of powers kind of guy, all right? And, this is if you're going to do something like this, this is how it should be done, I literally have no opinion on this, so just gonna leave it at that. AOC fakes being. I do have an opinion on this though. AOC fakes being handcuffed after arrest at abortion rights protest. Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Robespierre was roundly mocked on social media Tuesday after she put her arms behind her back to intimidate being handcuffed following her arrest at a pro-abortion demonstration outside the Supreme Court. The Bronx and Queens Democrat lawmaker was gently escorted away by a Capitol police officer along with fellow Rep. Carlin Maloney after blocking traffic outside the court building. That would mean that Alexandria Ocasio-Robespierre and Carlin Maloney have essentially done more than the MAGA Mimas did, that got them months in solitary confinement and a violation of their constitutional rights. But she's smiling, and she's smiling because she thinks, or she thought, I suppose, past tense, that she could get away with this, and she couldn't have gotten away with this. I don't understand why people insist on lying in the age of the internet. It doesn't work. It just does not work. AOC is not in handcuffs. Okay, Ilhan Omar isn't in handcuffs, but they're pretending that they've been handcuffed, and that's why they're smiling. AOC literally raises her fists to a crowd and then continues to put the other hand behind her back, and she got away with them thinking that she was handcuffed because the people who think that AOC is good in any way whatsoever they're basically idiots. They're basically idiots. Anyone who believes a liar like this so many times, it must be an idiot. They are a fool. They are a loser. They are a moron. They are a secular Catholic. And yes, I mean that as a slur at this point. Secular Catholicism, okay, if you are a secular Catholic, okay, you are definitionally speaking not sentient at this point. I don't know what to say. And now here's a downside of Roe v. Wade being overturned. Here's a downside. Okay? And well, yeah. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it. Maryland Senate Bill 669 legalizes infanticide up to 28 days after birth. There's a lot of rubber meeting the road these days, and we have warned time and time again, giving an inch leads to taking a mile. Residents in Maryland are about to find out with Senate Bill 669 proposed in the Maryland legislature. Matt Lamb offered the story for lifenews.com. Legislation proposed in the Maryland Senate would allow babies to be left to die for as long as the first 28 days after birth, according to analysis from a pro-life attorney. Senate Bill 669 is also known as the Pregnant Persons Freedom Act of 2022. See, pregnant persons, right? Not women. Only women can get pregnant. Only women have a vagina. Only women have a uterus. Oh my God! They cry so much about sex ed. It's like, oh, just people need education about sex ed. No, you need education about sex ed. Jesus. But the problems go beyond the use of person in place of accurate references to women having babies. Senator William Smith, a Democrat, sponsored the legislation, which will have a hearing on March 15th. Quote, the bill also proposes a revision of the fetal murder manslaughter statute that would serve to handcuff the investigation of infant deaths unrelated to abortion. American Center for Law and Justice, ACLJ attorney Olivia Summers wrote in her analysis. This is because the legislation prohibits investigations and criminal prosecutions for women and medical professionals for a failure to act in relation to a perinatal death. In other words, a baby born alive and well and well could be abandoned and left to starve and freeze to death, Summers wrote, and nothing could be done to punish those who participated in that cruel death. Infanticide after 28 days, because, well, as the saying goes, they need to sacrifice souls to Moloch, basically. So, yeah. Gonna end this one on a happy note because, well, I feel like it. Texas Governor Abbott responds to DC Mayor Bowser, quote, "The only lie is the Biden admin telling the American people our border is closed." So basically, in Arizona and Texas and I think Florida, but I'm not entirely sure, right? These border states. They're like, "Hey, Biden, can you please help us enforce the southern border?" And Biden's like, and then my fellow Yankees over in Yankee states were like, "Okay, fine, whatever. Let's do it ourselves." So they proceeded to do it themselves, and they started bussing. That was a pun. Okay, shut up. They started busing the immigrants to DC. It's like, look, you want these people. This is your problem. And 600,000 of them went to DC. And then the mayor, I kid you not, is like this is like the taxpayer should not be forced to shelter this burden. It's like, really, they shouldn't be forced to shelter this burden. And then it's like you're lying that the southern border is that much of a problem. It's just like, well, these 600,000 immigrants are too much for you, so shut up. They're dealing with more. It's clearly a problem, and it's gonna be one of those back and forth. Yeah, he said, she said, and I'm looking forward to covering more of it because, well, I find it funny. I find it funny that the people in the Capitol, woe is me. Woe is me. Woe is me. I'm just this rich, arrogant, entitled American aristocrat who forces my serfs in the countryside to shelter all the labor burdens from me, so that I could go clubbing and all this bullshit. Thank you for letting me parasitically leech off of you. Now let me import a bunch of foreigners so I could pay them slave wages, so that I can fire you from Paris, so that I can fire you from the job that allows me to parasitically leech off you. Anyway, in the meantime, my name is Trevor Brown, and you just watched the Trevor Report. Do click the Linktree that I was forced to make down below in the description, because Linktree banned my previous Linktree for opposing black nationalism. So I made sure to make my new one down below in the description. All of you brilliant viewers out there, my name is Trevor Brown. I am the editor-in-chief of Acropolis News Network because I can give myself whatever name and title I want because I own it. You could go to theacropolisnews.com, or you could go to This Just Trevor on whatever Liberty platform is your choice. You know, except for the ones I'm not on because I haven't seen them pretty much.
Acropolis News. News from the Acropolis.